Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tiny Bubbles, our mole recap podcast over here on Silent Podcast. We are anything but silent. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host JD.
Howdy.
Hi JD, and we are joined by today's guest, Katie, my podcasting partner. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Of course.
Thanks for being here.
Any chance to podcast with you because we don't do it enough. So
it's true. It's true.
Katie, we want to get right into it with you with asking the same question we ask everyone else. What's your prior mole fandom to last Friday?
I have not.
That's why we're excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about it. I have not watched the old seasons. I always meant to. They've always been on my list, but I just never have. So this is really my first mole experience. Carrie, I asked you the other day. I was like, how does the mole win? And you're like, no, the mole doesn't win. So I have no clue what I'm talking about. I'm a noob.
We wanted a fresh perspective because everyone we've had has been like, I've watched all the seasons, some of them twice. We have people who've watched the international ones with subtitles. I know I watched the original one as it aired. And so, Katie, you are our first, hi, I've been a fan for 8 days. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, 8 days. Yeah, I'm fresh out of the mole's womb.
Well, from the labor, welcome. Right?
I was just supposed to make a labor joke, Katie. Damn it.
There we go.
Yeah, and that is a great pun because of birth and going into labor and then a group of moles, a labor. Wow, that's just such a good joke.
I thought that one through. There we go. That's my one logical thought for the podcast.
Oh my God, no. You'll have way more logical thoughts than me, JD, I promise.
Do not expect any higher quality thinking out of me today than what you just heard. I have peaked. It's all downhill.
Yep.
Well, I'm excited that you're doing it because we need more people to watch The Mole. As of, I think this morning, Matthew sent me a screenshot of Robin Cass's Twitter saying, we don't know if there's going to be a season 2 yet. And to that, I say, one, if there is no season 2, that's just because Netflix is choosing to not have a season 2 because they have advertised this awfully.
Yep.
But 2, the more new fans, the better because hopefully we get a season 2.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
it's not just withered old mole fans just begging at Netflix door please give us a season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would hope not.
A couple of shows in that boat already, so hopefully we don't have to join them just yet.
Well, I don't know if it was the same for you guys. On my Netflix homepage, it was not there. I knew it came out because people were talking about it last week, but I had to really dig deep and search for it. Where normally I feel like if Netflix releases something new, it's new to Netflix. How many times do I have to see a fake Jeffrey Dahmer face on my screen? I'm not going to watch this. Right. Get away from me. Advertise The Mole to me. I'm going to watch it based on my habits.
I was upset because I felt like I was on a mission in The Mole to find the mole, but there's no money for me at the end of this.
No money involved, no exemptions.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah, it wasn't right there, which was annoying because you also had to invest money in this. It's not like it's exactly cheap to fly 12 people to Australia and house them in the houses that they've been staying in. They've been so nice. They compensated it for the 5 of the people who had to sleep on the concrete floor in this episode. But yeah, I'll be genuinely annoyed if there isn't a season 2 because there's so many people that in my life, and I don't have a lot of people I talk to. So I have turned a lot of people into mole fans in my life just because I won't shut the fuck up about it. And they all enjoy it. There's not a single person who's like, oh, this sucks. And so if you were to actually advertise Netflix, you wouldn't have to rely on my big mouth to do it.
I have a good feeling it'll come back. I mean, they bring back shows Love is Blind, I guess, is a big hit. But shows like that are so kind of meh, but then they bring those back. I mean, never mind. That's trashy, easy watching. This actually makes you think. So maybe they won't bring it back. Who knows?
Well, I mean, Netflix also went through the effort of rebooting this 2-decade-old season.
True.
Why would you only make one season of it? You know?
Especially because it doesn't suck. Like,
Exactly.
I could understand if they tried and they just gave us a season 5, if you will. Katie, if you ever watch season 5, you'll understand that reference.
Okay.
But
season 5.
It's not a season 5, you know, that it's good. And so I just like, it almost makes me scared that something's going to happen in one of the later episodes. Kind of like what happened with the Challenge USA. We're like, oh, this is good. This is good. And then we're like, fuck this show and the horse it came in on.
Now we're scarred.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing the mole has over the Challenge USA is that it's well produced. Like,
and 2, Sarah Lucina's not on it.
True. The absence of any cops. Yes, I agree.
The absence of any cops.
Yeah, no cops on the mole, please. Sorry if you're a cop listening, but I just don't want you on my reality TV. So,
that's a fair
all right. Now that we've talked about the mole and how it needs to be brought back for a season 2, let's get into episode 7. We left episode 6 with Kasi unchaining herself so that her feet were free, so that when she took that exemption, she could get the fuck out of that building as fast as possible. Which is exactly what she did.
Yep. I can't blame
her.
Girl
didn't even say a word. She just took it, stood there, stared at them, and just laughed.
The mess.
Like,
I love it.
What are you gonna do? Apologize? Why do you need to be sorry? You're making a move for yourself.
If she didn't take it, someone would have taken it. It's the same as the dossiers. Like, someone's gonna look at it. Someone's gonna take it.
Yeah.
You'd be crazy not to, especially as they're getting down so low to how many people are left. Like, you have to take it.
I 100% agree. I don't think that it was a dumb move. It's more just the way she did it was honestly perfect to me.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Didn't say a word. Didn't defend herself. Didn't try to make up any excuses. But
nope.
So we all agree. Kasi taking it makes complete sense. So the next morning, we get Kasi sitting there, just like sipping on her coffee in a nice cozy sweater, looking like she took a very nice, maybe a bath, maybe a shower, slept in a bed that was more than 2 inches off the ground, had extra pillows, nothing that the rest of her castmates got to experience the night before. And then the cat drags in the rest of the players. And Kasi says, like, listen, it's the fact that people trust me that allows me to lie so well to them.
Yep.
What do we make of Kasi saying this?
Who trusts her?
Casey.
Well, clearly the women did enough to vote for her to make that first decision.
That's true. Yeah, I guess Greg is really the only one at this point who's like, yeah, no, Kasi's the mole.
Yeah.
Casey, even the next morning, is saying, you're a team player, Kasi, as she's holding this exemption card. Like, is she Casey?
Like, clear evidence that Kasi is not a team player.
Yeah.
Casey's like, oh my god, yeah, you're still with us. Yay.
Oh, Casey.
And then we had Joy being upset about Kasi taking the exemption, to which I typed in all my notes, get out, in all capital letters.
About Joy?
Yeah.
Joy of all people being upset.
I'm a Joy stan.
Listen.
I am too, honestly.
We enjoy Joy over here. Joy puts the joy in enjoy, you know? Like, we're all about it. Fully. However, the hypocrisy for me.
Like, it's just always so funny whenever Joy says anything about an exemption or adding money to the pot.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like, did you forget that you are the sole purpose that you are 25K short? Well, I guess it's not entirely her fault. Like, Greg also did look at the dossiers.
Right.
So, like, it's like 10% his fault, or 20% maybe.
It's like a lot. I mean, $25,000 was a crazy bad. Yeah. That was crazy. A crazy wager.
Insane bid. Did we ever find out what like the second highest bid to that was?
Well,
they said the average was what, like 7,000?
7,000. We saw someone write down 15. I have to imagine that's the second highest.
I don't think I've heard anything higher than 15.
No, and especially I think like 15 is a good one for us to see, because even at 15, I'm like, oh, that's a lot. Because it's not just 15,000 not going into the pot or 25,000 not going into the pot. You are taking away. You are using a minus sign here and subtracting. So I think 15 must have been the next highest, because I mean, I'm not going to sit here and do the math right now, but if the average is 7K and you have those two alone add up to 40,000, and then we had Pranav say like what he did.
Pranav did like 1,500, I think.
I thought he said 35 for some reason.
It might have been 35.
But either way, like, I think the rest of them were $5,000 and less. So probably 15.
Bid at that point. You know you're not.
Well, why bid? What do you mean?
Yeah, like why bid 3,500?
Oh.
Well, I guess they had to bid, right? Because they didn't win, so they had to bid. Yeah.
I think they were a little more like,
I mean, kumbaya. I feel like we could have bid. Yeah, they definitely were more kumbaya as like a group. But I also think that they could have just wrote down 0. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I bid $1, Bob.
Yeah.
Anyway, Casey's prize, she trusted Kasi, and Avery thinks that Kasi's a good actress and never trusted her.
But you also voted for her because you did trust her.
Yeah.
It's at this point that I'm becoming a little bit more like not just frustrated with how we're seeing Kasi, but also in addition, like the confessionals that we get, and more skeptical of Kasi, I guess, because we're not getting any of her strategy. She didn't really say why. You know what I mean? Like the closest
like she stated the obvious, which is the numbers are getting smaller. I want to stay in the game, so I'm taking the exemption. Like anyone would say that.
Yeah.
Because we also don't know who she's thinking for the mole. She's like the one person that we have no insight of where she's been voting in any way. And kind of the idea that, like, okay, because they said you're trustworthy, let me prove them wrong. Explain more. Like, why? Why that? You know, like, don't just leave me at this sentence. Give me an extra sentence or two to explain it. So the way that they're framing Kasi for me is making it harder and harder for me to not believe that she's a mole. Like, if I wasn't so stubborn, she would be in my number 1 spot, but I have to keep Joy there because I've been saying Joy since 4 minutes into the first episode of the first season or first episode of the season. So
yeah, I mean, I've voiced this frustration before with Sandy and Samara and Casey to an extent, but it's just a problem where I feel like women are just consistently getting underedited. We have content from Avery, we have content from Joy. I don't even think we get as much Joy content if she doesn't make the decisions that she's been making.
Yeah.
So it's a frustrating position to be in as, you know, Kasi or Sandy or Samara, where you believe that you're bringing so much to the table, but no one else is seeing that. You know, we have Avery mostly in a narrative position, whereas when you look at the guys, we've had Greg in that spot, we've had Will in that spot, we've had Dom in that spot as the third person eliminated, we've had Pranav in that spot, and he barely made the halfway point. So, I mean, I would, if we do get a season 2, and I'm still hopeful that we get a season 2, I would like a better balance in whose opinions are being shown to the audience and whose perspectives are being shown to the audience.
I totally agree with you, JD. I feel like from the perspective of the women on the cast, like we don't really get to know, aside from Avery, right? Even Joy, like we see Joy as kind of like a chaos agent, but we don't really like get to know her the same way that we're getting to know Avery.
We know that she's a pilot.
Yeah, that's like all we know. And it just feels like the only reason that people are focusing so much on that is because she couldn't read a map. And like pilots are not flying planes with a map wide open on their screen. Just so everybody knows that. Like that's not what pilots do. They're flying a plane and they have air traffic controllers. Like everybody needs to let the maps go. Maybe they're navigating in a different way. I don't know. But if that didn't happen, I feel like we probably wouldn't have gotten anything from Joy either.
Yeah.
Until the wager.
Yeah, I think that Joy came into this game, if she's not the mole, she came in with a plan. And so I think
Absolutely.
Joy really put in the effort to be awful. And now she is kind of doing what Will said, like, let's start putting money back in the pot. Okay. But is it a cover up, or like she said, like, all right, now it's time for me to be the MVP. I'm here. Let's win this. I could go either way. I don't know what to believe. We've seen her lie through chili, through apple cider vinegar, through wasabi. So
that's so impressive, by the way.
That was very impressive.
She like didn't even flinch.
Not at all. That's probably the most impressive thing she's done ever. I don't care how many planes you've flown. Like, that alone.
She killed that.
She did.
Yeah. I agree that we're not getting enough out of Kasi, which that's what makes me skeptical. But it's the same thing that made me skeptical of Samara. It's the same thing that made me skeptical of Sandy. Like, they were 2 of my 3 first mole picks because we barely heard from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong. So maybe I'm wrong here. Who knows?
I also feel like the confessionals in general kind of are just not giving me anything. Like, they almost feel pointless. Like, do we need them?
I think they could be reworked.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like that exciting.
Don't give a bunch.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like confessionals have only really been useful for us during the quizzes, because that's when we get to see like where people's heads are really at. But aside from that, it's just recounting the same thing, either retelling what the mission is, or saying, oh, that person did something suspicious. Are they the mole? Like, it's one of those two things outside the quizzes.
Yeah, and I almost feel like, is this even what they're actually thinking? Or are they being like told to say like, oh, this person's suspicious to me now because they did this thing. And it's like, yeah, okay, great. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's adding anything to me, other than maybe like Pranav talked a lot about his strategy of like splitting the votes between people and whatever. But like, maybe give us a strategy, or give us, I guess they don't want to be so obvious with who the mole is to us at the end because we're kind of like playing along. But at least like for the people who are eliminated, give us like maybe like an exit confessional or something where it's just like, oh, I switched up my strategy this time and I voted, instead of like voting for this person, I voted for this person and something, or like I answered the questions leaning more toward this person. And they don't have to like go too in depth with what they did, but just like give us a little something. Because some of the eliminations, I'm like, whoa, how did that happen?
The closest we get to that is like their walkouts with Alex, where those answers are still like vague. Granted, like they're like in the moment, like shocked, they're not going to be able to give you like an intelligent thought. So yeah, like I feel like better care could be taken as far as confessionals go.
Yeah, totally.
I hate to say this, but I actually think that if we were to get more Will-esque confessionals out of other people, that I would be okay with that, because I do think that he does a good job of explaining his strategy, what he's thinking about other people in that moment, and then also his reactions. Because I mean, how many times has Will's mole gone home already this season?
Right.
At least twice. I'm not mad about his, but again, I think it's a lot of producer work to try and create the storyline that they want as well. Because to me, it feels like we get Will's strategy, Greg's strategy, and Avery's strategy. To me, they're built into like the winning edit type of thing. And they're casting their doubts on Joy, Jacob, and Kasi.
Right.
So that could be with purpose. Or you have people like, who was it from back in the day, Survivor, who would give nothing to the confessionals? Yeah, because she was afraid of production letting people in on their, I mean, we are how many years into reality TV? I don't exactly blame people for taking that approach either. So maybe it's something like that as well, where it's like, no, I'm even keeping my cards close to my chest from you because I do not need you going and telling my shit to anybody else, whether purposefully or accidentally.
Right.
On top of that, what, 3/4 of them are actors, so they understand the behind the scenes as much as they do being in front of the camera, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Regardless, I love the cast for the most part.
They're amazing.
It's been a very enjoyable cast, despite all of our gripes about how they're being edited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's why I think it's so frustrating that they're being edited in the way they are, because the cast themselves all seem really great. And like props to Robin Cass. She's gotten a lot of crap from Big Brother fans. But she's done an amazing job here. And on Big Brother Canada, she's still casting Big Brother Canada.
True.
And that's a great cast too. So we have to give her some props where they're due. She was our scapegoat for a long time, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, after the discussion between Kasi and the rest of the cast, we get told, okay, we're going to an elimination. So here's where we get a little bit of insight from everyone before they take the quiz. And again, it was mentioned that Kasi didn't have to take the quiz. So I brought this up in an earlier podcast where when Joy got the exemption, we're like, oh, does she not have to take it? And people in the chat were saying like, no, well, back in, which was true because I watched this episode or the season of Celebrity Mole recently. Eric Von Detten got an exemption, but he still had to take the quiz. And they like said at the end of the season, if he hadn't had the exemption, he had the worst score and he would have went. So they're not, I don't think they're taking the quiz when they have the exemption here. So just putting that out there. But Will says Casey okay, Carrie, you can use subject verb agreement. You got this. Casey put herself in the position to sit back and watch people. Greg thinks that Kasi is the mole, but still suspicious of everyone else. Will has suspicion of Kasi, but thinks Greg is the mole. Casey's biggest suspect is Jacob, and Jacob thinks Joy is the mole, but Casey has gained some suspicion. And Avery said she's splitting up the questions, but putting more on Jacob.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't hear anything about what Joy is thinking during this quiz.
Right. That's true.
And we don't have to hear about what Kasi's thinking because she's not taking it.
Right.
But we don't really know what Kasi's thinking anyway, right?
Yeah.
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 I feel like
even if she had to take it, I feel like we wouldn't know who she's leaning toward.
Well, Casey's eliminated, which means if she's telling the truth in her confessionals and she's putting more questions on Jacob, then that could be bad news for Avery.
Could be bad news, yeah. But I mean, we've also had like the first, 2-3 people say that they were putting their answers on Joy, and yet people are still suspect of Joy. So yeah. I'm putting less and less weight on what people are saying they put their answers towards.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I'm going to say it. And Casey, if you're listening to this, because I know we're in some common online spaces, I mean this in a not mean way, but it was Casey's time to go. Like, Casey plateaued for me as a character. Yeah, if Casey wasn't the mole, Casey had to go in that elimination. Otherwise, like, I just don't think we're getting much more out of her that I would rather see the other people who are there continue on more than her. And so I wasn't like exactly distraught or anything by this. Like, I was still surprised in a way, but when it happened, like, oh, this is like good timing for Casey to leave the game.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we have like beat the dead horse already about the edit, but like I kind of pointed it out last night with Naomi, where it was Samara first fell into that trap where she got like a really big edit at the start of the second episode, and then she goes home in the third. Sandy gets a really big edit in the third, fourth episode and goes home next. And the same thing happened to Casey here. We got a lot more Casey content than usual last episode, and then she goes at the beginning of this one.
That's a really good point. It was really blatantly obvious with Sandy. That like that was one of the only episodes that I feel like she even had a voice, and then she went. And Casey too, same thing. Like, I feel not like that she only had a voice in like the last episode, but there was a lot of focus on her.
And in a way, like, I don't see how she fills, let's say, let's flip it. Let's say Will went all in on Casey. Clearly, Casey is not the mole. Will goes home in this one. To me, like, Casey doesn't fill Will's shoes in a way that it's beneficial. And to me,
I
as a
mean, who
viewer,
would fill Will's shoes? Like Avery, maybe?
yeah, especially with losing Pranav. Like, if Pranav was still here, then I would love to see him more on camera. Honestly, it'd probably be Greg. I think we get more Greg.
Yeah, probably.
I think he's probably your best filler for anyone just because of his sense of humor and arrogance. Plus, he's probably onto the mole. So
Yeah.
that's the other thing. We could hear from Joy, but again, Joy doesn't provide us like the strategy content. Joy's confessionals are less about everyone else and more about her.
Yeah.
Which isn't a wrong thing by any means, Joy. Like, it's your camera, it is your time. Use it how you want to. But I do feel that we don't get as much about other people from Joy, and we get more just about like how I need to do this for my family. Like, I'm a badass. I have no fear, this and that, which again, we love it, but doesn't bring
It doesn't
the
add
same
anything.
Yeah. That like cerebral level of, I think, what a lot of mole fans enjoy from this show. So bye, Casey. It's been real. You can come on the podcast. We'll talk to you anyway.
Yeah.
So, we do need to talk about Will's reaction.
Will
was fucked up.
Ghost. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that Will, when he said I'm going to throw up, I didn't think he was being dramatic.
Yeah.
He was very distraught, very upset, because this is also the second time that his mole is going home. He thought Samara was the mole, and then she's gone. Casey's gone. His read is definitely off, but to me, it's interesting how he's still here. So I want to know who his second vote is, really.
I think I literally only have down the name. I have no explanation for it. I think it might have been Kasi. I literally have nothing else to like say to sort of like elaborate on that. But I mean, look at everyone else on the board. Has Will ever been that suspicious of Greg? Has he ever been that suspicious of Jacob before this quiz, at least? Has he ever? Well, I guess he's been a little suspicious of Avery, but we haven't really seen that recently. So, I mean, process of elimination, I think if Will was splitting his votes between Casey and someone else, it might have been Kasi.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean,
I've been frozen. I think
something's
Katie's
wrong
mic's
with
being weird.
Yeah.
So, JD, politely, can you repeat what you just said? Because I was kicked out of the internet.
Oh man. Okay, so I think it has to be Kasi, if only through a process of elimination. I don't think before this quiz we've heard Will be that suspicious of Jacob or Greg. It could have been Avery, but I feel like it's more likely, seeing how closely Will and Kasi have been working together in some of these recent missions, that Will ends up being more suspicious of Kasi as like a second option to Casey.
That's completely reasonable. Yeah, his reaction both like in front of everybody, which I think is funny in a way to like show your cards that much. I feel like he wasn't as dramatic when Samara left, but
yeah, definitely
with
not.
this he like, it was very obvious that he was shocked, and not for a reason like his BFF Dom left. It's because like, oh shit, my complete read on everything is wrong. It is very wrong.
because like what's different between like Dom and Casey is with Casey going, Will's sort of like forced to reckon with his mortality in the game because like he says, he could have been like one question off and that would have been him instead. So that's definitely like in Will's shoes, that is an absolutely terrifying position to be in. So I fully understand the reaction.
I would just like, again, to offer Netflix $20. Give me the results from these quizzes.
Yeah.
I will, please. You can get more money out of me. I know you guys are struggling right now. You're adding in the whole $7.99 a month plan with ads. Like, I'll give that's nearly 3 of those plans just for me to be able to see the quiz responses. That's it. Like, I think that's a great deal, Netflix. So make that an option. Thank you.
I agree. I mean, with Netflix putting out like so many different extras, so like for like so many of their other, I guess, quote unquote flagship shows, why not have like a little separate like article or something, or even like extra scene where we get to see like how people did on their quiz more than just did they do enough to make it to the next round.
Yeah, and I understand keeping those secret during the season so that it's harder for us to figure out where people are falling in terms of nearly being eliminated. And I think having watched that Celebrity Bowl season this week really put that into perspective for me because, like, spoiler, if you haven't seen it, and especially since like Katie's not here right now for me to worry about spoiling it for her, there was multiple times that it was Eric or Kathy who would have gone home, but they took the quiz faster than the person who got the same amount of wrong questions as them. Like Kathy, her strategy was, I am going to take the quizzes the fastest. And she literally took every single one the fastest. And they didn't tell us that till the end of the season. So like I kind of like not knowing in a way, but I want to know eventually. So please provide me with that. All right, well, let's get into our next mission. And we are at this like art exhibit thing, right?
It's more like a warehouse with like 2 single pieces of art in it.
See, I thought that they were actually at like an art place.
Were they actually at a museum?
I don't know. I could be.
It looked like the same
warehouse. Don't ask me the last time
I've
been in a museum, JD. I don't even know what a museum looks like. I can probably struggle spelling it, much less telling you what it looks like. So
yeah, it felt more like the typical like warehouse setup that we've seen them in a lot this season than an actual museum.
I agree.
It's probably cheaper to rent out a warehouse than it is a whole art exhibit, especially because they were in Sydney at this point, right?
Yes.
Nothing's going to be cheap there. You're next to the big old opera house thing.
Yep.
So they go to the fake art exhibit, real warehouse, and there are 2 pieces of art on the wall. And everybody is tasked with determining which piece is the fake piece of art. Everybody who chooses correctly gets the opportunity to play for an exemption. I didn't think that the like conversations were anything worthwhile during this, to be honest.
Really.
Like there,
like
you could just
2
tell
arbitrary arguments of which one is fake and which one isn't. It's like a coin flip, essentially.
Yeah. And you can tell that people are just so in their heads at this point. Everything, they're questioning everything in 4 different ways. And, well, what if they do this? Well, what if they think we're going to do this and then we're going to do this? Like the paranoia is just at a 10 right now.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine actually being there because the circular logic will just go forever and ever and ever, in my head at least. So props to them for finding out where to just like say, okay, time to shut up and make a decision.
Yeah, I felt like I was doing the same thing with myself. Like I was like, well, this one feels really obvious, but then this one also could be obvious. Like maybe if they had more than 2 would be really difficult too, but I don't know. It's just like you said, JD, it's a total coin flip. So
yeah,
there's no real like strategy.
No, how
you could
could
make
there
the
be?
strategy in your head, but like it literally is a 50-50.
Yeah, the strategy ends up being whoever was right, their strategy was right. Like that's it. Plus, I'm incredibly biased, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a piece of art. And I'm like, motherfuckers are getting paid thousands for this. Like, I could do this. I just didn't know that I could do this. And someone will buy me or buy this off of me for $2,000. Like, I just didn't know that all I had to do is like put paint on the like bottom of my dog's paws and have him walk across a piece of canvas, and that is considered
People
real
would pay
art.
good money for that.
People
Seriously,
would,
put it up on Etsy.
Well, Nitro's famous, so Melissa
See,
from the
even
real
more
world
money
knows
from
him
that.
by name,
true.
so he's
It's
famous.
It is true.
Yeah, I also, and I talked to JD about this before the podcast started. This is probably the first time that of all the missions that I have a gripe with this, because it's determining two groups of people. One group gets to compete for exemptions, and one group has to determine from the exemption group who is lying while telling a story. So there's a few things at play here. To me, it's a little weird that it ends up being 3-3 perfectly in a group of 6. That made me be like, okay, coincidence or production doing their thing. But when you get into it of, okay, well, what if it's 4-2? What if there are 4 people who are all not moles who pick the correct piece of fake art? And then the other 2, one is the mole and one is not. And they have to determine who is lying, right? So let's say that they are not successful. Is the person who is sitting with the mole just automatically going home? They obviously can't tell them that.
Yeah,
because
that
they're
would
going to
have to
make
be what
everybody take
happens.
the quiz. They're going to, but it didn't matter if that person got a 100 or it got
That's true.
nothing. That person has to go home. So then, like
me, what
me,
happens if it's all 5 moles that get the correct painting right? The mole gets it wrong for whatever reason of their own machinations. Like, who goes home? The mole can't go home, and everyone else is safe because they got the exemption.
So it felt a little unclear to me. Like, did everybody in that case get the exemption, or did those then, like, the 3 of them, so all 3 of them would have been exempt? Yeah, so that doesn't really make any sense then, to your point, JD. Like, if all 5 non-moles chose the incorrect paint or the correct painting, and then they got the exemption, like, well, I guess in that case, like, the mole would probably have been told which story.
Well, yeah, I'm
Perhaps,
assuming. Yeah, the mole. I don't even think that the mole would have ended up in by themselves. You know what I mean? I think that the mole would have just gone with the group as well.
Yeah.
Because they know which picture is fake. And so this one, to me, is just, I have a lot of questions that I don't know if we'll ever get them answered because of the way that this was done. I don't necessarily like that the groups were determined based off of this. I would rather it be like how they've done it where, okay, name your like 2 most critical or like your best critical thinkers or whatever it is. And so the fact that we actually landed at 3-3, a little questionable. And just how, if there isn't producer manipulation in play, then I feel like there was a lot of ways that this could have gone left very easily.
Yeah, this is like the least airtight mission, and like by far, like noticeably so.
Because then in another way, let's pretend again it's 4 non-moles who are doing the experience, having to tell the story, and up for the exemption. And then you have non-mole and mole who are trying to figure out who's telling the truth. And let's say like it's Avery and we'll put Will because he's the least likely to be the mole, but let's pretend that Will is the mole in this situation, right? Pretend like Pranav is still there, correct? And he's in the other group. So Pranav and Avery are sharing all of their information. And so,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like this is, we're being hyperbolic here. So if Avery and Will are the only two that have to take the quiz and Avery gets sent home, even though she knows who the mole is because like she's getting a lot of answers right. Like, aren't you then as her ally, someone who shared all this information, aren't you like completely fucked in all the work you've done in the game because of like, wait a second, how did this person go home out of those two? I don't know. Just there's a lot of things that are with this mission that if it went any other way than 3-3, I would have a lot of questions about.
It was probably predetermined that they just didn't show us on the show that it would have to be split down the middle, I would assume. Because, like,
maybe, yeah.
Are they going to set up a bunch of these different experiences just in the event that 5 people are there? And then, like, oh, no, sorry, like, or like, oh, to those people who set those missions up, if like 4 people chose the wrong thing and then they only used one of those experiences, like they would have had to have had some kind of production going on in the background to like get the snake set up and get the coals set up. Like it just feels like they would have had to have set it up that way, and it would have had to have been predetermined. They maybe just didn't feel like it was something that needed to be explained, which I think it would have done a service to the show if they explained that a little.
Questions would have been answered.
Yes, like explained. 3 of you will go off to do this, and 3 of you will have to guess like which picture. It feels like that could have easily been in there.
Yeah, I feel like the mole has done a very good job. The show, not the person, has done a very good job of knowing their audience through this. That just the way that this could have played out in any other way, if it's not 3-3, to me is just a little bit too like loose.
Yeah.
I think it had to have been 3-3. I don't think there's any world where it wouldn't have been 3-3. I think they just didn't tell us that.
Yeah, I'm agreeing, but then don't make it be something where it seems like, well, okay, yeah, all 5 of you think the splatter paint is one thing, or the opposite. Like 5 of you think the stop sign, and Greg, you're holding out because you're stubborn as fuck. Like that would not be a surprise in the slightest for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second part that I have an issue with here is 50% of them having an exemption.
Yeah, that's too many people to have an exemption.
Way too many at 6. At final 6.
At 6.
Like,
yeah, it's one
half and half exemption was brilliant in my opinion during the final 11, final 10.
Yeah.
Like that was brilliant. Yeah. But this is just too late in the game to be giving half of the cast an exemption.
Especially because, okay, let's say it is those 3 or those 2 groups, and you have Greg, you have Will, and you have Kasi. Let's assume Kasi is the mole. So you have a 50-50 chance, again, of Greg or Will going home if that group gets the exemption, which is crazy to me from a game standpoint, again, because I think it's as important to like track who you think the mole is, but also who other people think the mole is. So like if Greg leaves in that, then like, okay, all of his information that I thought about him is gone. Or like Will leaves in that, all the information I thought about him, but it's not the same impact as 1 of 7 going home or 1 of 6, because really it was 1 of 2 if Kasi's the mole. And so it's that situation is like final 3 stakes at final 6. And to me, that's just too much. I don't think, not that game shows have to be fair or whatever, but I know that if I was in that situation, I would be enraged. Absolutely enraged.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it just leaves it almost like way too much up to chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in a game where so much it really comes down to what you do. And I can't remember if I brought this up on here or if it's in like one of the 10 places I'm talking about the mole at all times during the day. But I'm not going to say which cast member did this. But they retweeted a tweet that said cast member's name was robbed. Bro, how? Like, you got the least amount of quiz corrections right. You took your own quiz. Or not quiz corrections, quiz questions right. Like, you took robbed of what?
Right.
And so I like that, like, there's so much of this that you can control, unlike in a lot of other games. But that instance of 50% of them at Final Six having an exemption, to me, is too much. I feel like it not changes the game, but it has too much impact on the game.
Yeah.
In ways that, like, we haven't seen yet, and I just don't think is fair.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Same.
All right, good. Well, glad that all of my complaints are agreed with. So thank you for that. We've kind of talked about what's happened. We can be a little bit more specific about it. So the teams were made because of their choice in art. The 3 people who said that the stop piece of art was fake, who were correct, were Avery, Greg, and Joy. So this group gets taken off
It was Avery,
to somewhere.
Jacob, and Joy.
Wait, what did I say?
You said Greg instead of Jacob.
I did?
I think so.
Okay.
I heard Greg. I'm sorry.
Avery, Jacob, Joy. So whatever I said, those are the real 3. And they get taken off to some place, and 2 of them are going to participate in an experience. Whatever this experience is, we don't get to see it or find out about it until the next day when the other players do.
Mm-hmm.
So the next day, the 3 players who have to determine which 2 are telling a truthful story and which one of them is lying are sitting on a couch. They bring the other players in one by one. They each tell those 3, this is what I did last night. And afterwards, that group has to decide who is lying. If they're correct about who's lying, $20K goes in the pot. If they were incorrect, the 3 people who had the experience would all have an exemption. So Jacob goes first, and Jacob says he had to bite the head off of a witchetty grub and then kind of spit it out and then eat the body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bite the head off. It's like he said it was a delicacy. Some kind of like Australian delicacy, right?
Yeah, like an Aboriginal delicacy.
Yes,
I did not.
Delicacy.
I did not fact check Jacob.
Nor did I. I'm good. I'm gonna assume. Either way, I'm good. I don't need to know. Which painting did you guys
eating
pick
a witchetty grub in the outback of Australia? I don't want to watch videos. Oh, the way he explained it, I expected it to be a lot bigger. Well, that one's kind of big. All right, people
I expected it to be like a big mole. No pun intended because of the mole. But like a naked mole. Like that's kind of, or like
no,
like a big worm.
Well, he called it like a grub, so it's like
they look like
I guess like I just
caterpillars.
Yeah,
but I pictured it like big. I don't know.
Some of these are bigger than others. Some of them off.
Yeah, that's why I didn't decide to fact check. Yeah, like I don't need to know.
Some of them look like they're the size of the caterpillar from that kid's book, and then others are much smaller. So
the very hungry caterpillar, like it's the huge one.
That one. That round and bumpy too. But there are, in his defense, a lot of Google images of, well, I mean, given I did put eating, so maybe that's why there's so many pictures of people eating them. Fucking moron.
But so then it happens. That means it happens.
True.
Yeah, like there's a 1:55 long video of eating a witchetty grub on YouTube. If you're interested after this podcast is done, to go stay on YouTube and check it out. We'll add it to the mole playlist. The Tiny
you
Bubbles
guys enjoy
playlist.
that.
Yo, they got fucking witchetty grubs just lined up on like a sandwich with condiments here. This is crazy.
Yeah, that guy so I guess it is some kind of delicacy.
Yeah, glad Jacob could enjoy that. But not really.
Yeah.
So do you think they told him this is the story you're going to tell, or that he came up with it on his own?
I think they told him.
I
How would he
I
come up
think it
with that
was
on his
I
own?
think it was the mix. I think they allowed him to like workshop the lie.
Yeah, they probably gave him like this situation.
Yeah.
Like not the full story, but like you would have had to eat this witchetty grub and then like here you go, make up a story about it. I don't think he would have just like plucked that out of thin air.
Definitely not. I don't think.
Do you
Like,
think
how
that
do
they
you know
told
what
him?
Aboriginal delicacies are?
Right.
Well, yeah, especially for a dude who's never left the country. He's like from
Yeah,
Ohio,
like he would have no idea.
which
He would have no idea.
Ohio has its own like build the wall situation going on to just keep people in. Like people just don't leave Ohio. So sorry, Ohioans.
Is
but
Ohio like the Bermuda Triangle?
no,
Yeah,
Ohio
where's
is
you
like
go,
the
never leave.
Florida of the Midwest, where it's just like
That's actually
that's
yeah, no
that's
offense.
like the population of people you got there.
I've actually been to
Do you
Ohio. It's
think?
pretty nice in the area I went to, but like, yeah, I wouldn't live there.
Can't say I've been.
I mean, I wouldn't
Can't
live
say that
there.
I intend on it either.
JD, politely, for as just overall as a human, it's not in your best interest. Like,
Okay.
I don't think that they have Black people's best interests in mind. LGBTQIA,
No,
nope.
yeah.
Like,
Noted.
save yourself.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Mm.
It is a red state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think production told Jacob what the other two were doing to help create the lie? Because for me, they had Jacob's story about eating the witchetty grub, and then Joy came out and she had a snake on her. And then when Avery's like, "Oh, I walked across hot coals," I'm like, "Oh, well, that's not an animal." So I'm wondering, like,
I didn't really connect.
do you think that?
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, I did think Avery was lying just for other reasons. But yeah, I guess production might have given Jacob the tip of like, okay, here's what Joy is going to talk about. Here's what Avery is going to talk about. Make sure that you're not repeating what they're saying because it kind of blows everything up.
But that to me, I feel like the only way that would happen maybe is if like Jacob was the mole, so he'd have all that information. Because I almost feel like it would be more interesting if Jacob somehow told a very similar story to what like Joy said by accident, and then they would really have to determine like between the two, like, whoa, these stories are like almost the same. Which one of them is lying?
Or it could have been, okay, these two are telling the similar stories, meaning that it did happen, and whoever
True, and then Avery's lying. Yeah,
whoever's the odd one out is lying. Yeah,
right. Like, I don't. Would they want to? Would they want to like avoid that from happening, or would they be fine with it?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I haven't really thought of it either way.
See, I'm kind of doing that by giving Jacob an animal one, and then Joy an animal one, and then Avery like, oh, coals? Weird. So I thought that they were already kind of doing that.
I definitely didn't connect the fact that like Jacob had an
obviously
animal.
I was wrong.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't connect the.
No. I didn't say anything. I think I'm just lagging because my internet sucks again today. So we love technology.
I know I'm having my own tech issues over here too. No, but yeah, I didn't connect that they were both animal. I felt like they were like different enough. Like you're eating something that you wouldn't normally eat, and then like, oh, you have a snake crawling on you, which is like generally pretty scary. Like those two things to me felt different enough that I didn't connect the fact that like, oh, there's two animals and like one non-animal. It almost feels like it was like fear factor level of like, oh, you're gonna have a huge snake on you, and you're gonna walk on coals, and you're gonna bite the head off this thing. Like, how far are you willing to go? That's kind of what it felt like to me. And then just two of them happen to be animals.
Well, the next story was Joy, who said she had a big python around her neck. And when she was telling the story, she kind of got caught up in like which hand was the head in, which hand was the tail in. And as someone who sucks at lefts and rights, I get it. I enjoy. I too would struggle. Will
I mean, does it matter that much if it's around your neck? Like, are you really paying attention to where the snake's head is if it's around your neck?
No, I would have been like, just closed my eyes and just like let it happen. And that's probably, I would have been like, I don't know. Truly, I didn't look at it. I was just waiting for it to be over. Like I didn't look to see where the head or the tail was. Like it doesn't matter to me. There was a snake on me and I just wanted it to be over.
I decided to believe in God in that moment. And was praying, so
yeah.
I
was holding my breath and my eyes were closed. So I don't know.
My left hand and my right hand were together and just prayer formation.
Yeah, in a prayer.
That's where they were.
Exactly.
From Joy's story, Will seemed like automatically convinced she wasn't lying.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess Joy accomplished, if Joy wants to win money, the mission. But Avery came in wanting to throw people off. She won the exemption.
Yeah.
Now, Katie, you said that you had reasons to believe that Avery was lying. She said that she walked across hot coals. What do you think that she did that made it seem like she was lying?
Well, one, I have no experience walking on coals or like watching people walk on coals, but I did watch The Office and Pam Beesly did walk on hot coals once, and I did not remember her wetting her feet before she did so. So when she said that she wet her feet, I was like, is that a thing that happens? That's the only time I feel like I've ever seen anyone walk on coals. I know it's a fake show, but I was like, oh, she wet her feet. That feels like that would be bad. Like, I don't know. Would you want wet feet walking on hot coals? Like, it feels like almost those two like opposite things would have a negative reaction.
Well, I guess
but again, I'm basing it on
you have like a little bit of like, because water puts out fire. So maybe it's a little bit of that sort of like physics, chemistry, some sort of science behind it.
That's true. The Office has swayed me maybe incorrectly.
Yeah,
and then she wouldn't take off her shoes.
To that Office scene.
Yeah, that's the only like picture of someone walking on hot coals that I have in my head.
Yeah, same.
And then when she wouldn't take off her shoes, like, just take your shoe off.
Yeah, I wouldn't take my shoes off for Greg either. If Cassie had asked me, I'd be like, "Okay, girl, I got you." But Greg,
fair enough.
No, I'd be like, "You little arrogant fuck! I will keep my shoes on."
Greg.
Yeah, the shoe thing is what made me suspicious, but the other thing is that like all that my strategy as someone who was playing for the exemption would have been, if I'm the person who didn't get an experience, I want my experience to sound as truthful as possible and let the other two players like tell as many lies as they want or try to throw people off as much as they want. I was the least thrown off by Avery's story. So that's why I thought that she was lying. That's kind of like
fair.
backwards
logic. Yeah, that's
logic,
fair.
But
no, that
I feel like you kind of
sense.
have to employ backwards logic at sometimes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I looked, and people who walk across wet coals tend to walk on like damp grass first. So I guess wetting your feet is a thing. So maybe Pam Beesly should have.
Well, they're on the beach, I think, right?
They were on the beach, or like at the lake or something.
Yeah, there was a body of water present somewhere.
There was, yes, because Andy was like floating away in it, in his sumo suit.
I've watched every episode of The Office only once, just so I can say that I've watched it, but I cannot say that I enjoyed nearly any of the episodes.
Oh, wow.
I'm not an Office fan.
Okay, that's a take.
I think
it's not my favorite show, but I do like it.
Neither mine. I think it's mediocre.
Yeah,
for what it is.
I like it.
Like I appreciate
mostly
what it did for like the mockumentary format of comedy and sitcoms, but there's better out there for sure.
Yes, like Abbott Elementary.
Exactly.
I think part of the issue is just because like so many people just like flick their bean to how good The Office is that I'm like,
no, I'm with you on that.
I do not see this greatness that you do. And another hot take is that they changed after the first 6 episodes because like people weren't getting the humor. The first 6 episodes were my favorite 6 episodes. That was my type of humor. So when they changed it and I'm like, oh, this isn't as good as it used to be. And I found out because it was like, oh, this isn't like tracking well with groups or whatever. It's just not meant for me. I kind of like capped out on my appreciation for sitcoms with like Seinfeld though. Truly, I cannot think of many like sitcoms I've enjoyed past Seinfeld.
Same. I mean, Schitt's Creek is good.
Schitt's Creek was good. Yeah.
Yeah. But like Friends, keep it.
I haven't watched it.
I want nothing to do with it.
I've watched maybe like 2 episodes of Friends in my life.
I've seen them. My boyfriend makes fun of me because I openly hate Friends, but I've seen every episode because I grew up in the 90s when Friends was huge. So like I've watched it and it was on TV all the time. And I'm like, it's just a way for me to have a very informed opinion that this is a bad show because I've seen it. It's especially when comparing it to Seinfeld. Seinfeld's all time.
Yeah.
Seinfeld's great.
No, my least favorite roommate loved Friends, and every time I would hear her, and she would watch it all the time. When I would hear the theme song, I'm just like, this, like, get a personality.
Truly, I was gonna say, Kari, like, loving The Office does not give you a personality.
Yeah,
like, you need more than that to have a personality.
In the year 2022, some people are fully still using The Office as a personality
or Friends.
Trait. Or Friends. Or both.
Yeah, or both.
Yeah.
People do it with Seinfeld too. Let's not,
All right, well, welcome back to our Mole podcast. I mean, truly, we don't have much more to talk about with this episode anyway, so it was a great little diversion from our problems at hand, which Greg seemed adamant that his job as a focus group director, where he plays good cop and bad cop at all times, helps him determine who's lying. And he was right. And I think Will decided not off of his gut. I think Will decided, like, I have to either agree with Kasi or I have to agree with Greg. Where do I go? And I think he trusts Greg more than Kasi.
Because in the world where, the world that is reality is where Kasi is wrong, Kasi's not going to, like, say, like, haha, I told you so, or anything like that if she was right. Greg, like, Will would have so much more he would have to deal with if he agreed with Kasi in that moment. So I'm okay with the move of, like, sure, it adds money to the pot, but I feel like the bigger sort of objective with that decision was making sure that Greg isn't pissed off.
Yeah. I mean, would you want to deal with a pissed off Greg? I don't think I would.
No, absolutely not.
Imagine it's the opposite way around and having to deal with a pissed off Will. Kasi's not going to say anything.
I wouldn't want to deal with that either.
A pissed off Will.
I find Will so self-righteous. Yeah, like that would be worse to me than dealing with a pissed off Greg.
JD gave the best explanation of Will yesterday. I was so happy with how he explained it. No, truly. Because I was like trying to get there and JD just jumped in and was like, no, this is it. And he said that Will has the grind mentality. Like, I deserve this because I work so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I do think he's become like a pivotal character within the show. And I think you need a Will in the show. You need the person who it's going to be very hard to sway them to do something that will hurt the group. But I also don't want to see Will win the show. And I think there's people who want to see Will win the show for the reason because he never do anything to hurt the group. Like the same people who were devastated Dom left. Like, yeah, good personality, but Buddy's not playing an A+ game here by any means.
Right. Like, I will be okay if Will wins because it makes sense. Like, we've known where Will's head is at the entire season.
Right.
We know what his sort of strategy was and what his approach was to playing the game from day one. So, like, say next Friday Will is however many $1,000 richer, like, yeah, fine. Like, we saw him do what he needed to do to win, so I'm not going to be mad at it. If Kasi wins, I'm going to be very confused because we, to this day, like more than halfway through the season, have no idea what Kasi is thinking as far as who she's suspecting, who she doesn't suspect, what her strategy is as far as how she's portraying herself. Like, I'm going to have a lot of questions if we turn up with like a Kasi win. Or even, not so much a Joy win, because we know historically Joy has been suspicious of Will and Jacob.
Yep.
We haven't been updated on that this week, I don't think, but at least we have something there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Even I would feel the same way if Jacob won too. I think Jacob is like a total flop to me. So like, and I just feel like he's just like a wet blanket. So Jacob is my mole pick, but if Jacob's not the mole and somehow he ends up winning, I'll be frustrated by that.
Yeah.
To me, Jacob is using this as okay. I'm pretty confident neither of you have coached high school sports before, but
correct.
As someone who
say
has,
that?
as someone who has, Jacob reminds me of the high school senior whose dad thinks that, like, no, you're going to play softball. I say softball, that's my coach in college, and we're gonna come out here and I'm gonna film like the last 2 games of the season. And by the way, coach, can you show up and like hit some ground balls at her so that we can like make a highlight film and send that out to coaches for like a scholarship or whatever? Like that's Jacob with acting and the mole. Does that make sense? Like he's gonna cut shit from this and put it together, and that's gonna be like what he sends to auditions.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully his acting is better than his lying.
I mean, I say just stick to firefighting.
Yeah, we do need some more civil servants and less Instagram influencers. So
yeah.
What's like the acting scene like in Ohio? Like, is that like the third biggest? Like there's LA and then like New York and then like Ohio?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it like silver screen, television, TikTok?
Yeah, maybe.
That's funny.
Above the stage. There's no stage. There's just TikTok and then stage.
Well, after this, we are going to dinner, and we get a confessional from Joy saying, listen, I'm about to stir it up. Like, it's about to go down. Everybody bring your popcorn. I'm about to do something. About to go crazy.
And this is why we love Joy.
This is exactly why we love Joy.
This is why we love Joy.
Yes. A queen.
So, all right. I'm not going to laugh while I tell this, because in the times I've listened back to it, like you just hear me like giggling in the background at like 3/4 of the things that we're saying. And I need to be better about that. So we've got Alex sitting at the head of the table where she belongs. Mm-hmm. She started tweeting about the mole, by the way, but it's not in her Instagram bio. She did say that she had no idea who the mole was through taping. Oh. And she's like, you could like look at this look of confusion on my face. Clearly, I didn't know who it was. And it was at a dinner. I don't know if it was this dinner, the dinner, but
Alex Wagner said this?
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with her, by the way.
She's so good.
Like, I would like to be her.
Actually, yeah. That would be
I would like to be her. Yeah.
I support that.
I'll take that.
Great wardrobe.
I would love
to
get her on here after the season ends.
You should do that.
Okay, so Alex is sitting at the head of the table. And everybody else sits down. So we've got maybe 3 people on one side, 2 on the other, but Joy's at the end. And Jacob's on the other side of the table from her. And Alex goes, how's everybody doing? And everyone's like, oh, good. And Joy just kind of like sits and gives a look. She's like, well, I'm sick of Jacob just screwing up a lot and no one calling it out. You know what I think? Jacob, you're the shithole mole.
Where do you pull shithole from when describing a mole?
It's
like I thought shithole was used for places.
Yeah, it rhymes.
Not people. Oh yeah, it rhymes. True.
Yeah. Yes, place is typically that is a descriptor of places and not living things.
Hold on. This is a great crossover comment. Joy sets it off like a real housewife.
And that's why I love her. That is why I love her.
Erica, I know you were here yesterday watching us, but Katie and I co-host the Real Housewives podcast on this network. So really do appreciate that comment. Absolutely. Yes, Joy just starts going off, and I'm mad that I have to wait until episode 8 to see the rest of it. Like, give me all of that. Don't cut me off in the middle of Joy going off. I want to see more.
I'm upset that it ended here because like I want to say so much more, but it's all about the next episode, so I can't. I will obviously keep it to myself, but yeah, agreed.
Yeah, literally the second we log off from this podcast, I
Yeah.
am reopening Netflix and continuing this absolutely epic
The
rant
self-control that
tirade.
you guys have is truly impressive.
It's painful.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
truly hard.
Especially with the way that Netflix edits these episodes, like there's no way that you would catch me pressing stop at the end of an episode.
It's hard.
Again, it's been a struggle, and I'm proud of us for doing it. I don't think
you guys
Same.
do. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's
Keep
been tough.
persevering.
It's crazy that there's only 3 episodes left. I feel like it just started.
It did just start. The episode.
It did. You're right. It was literally last week.
Last week.
Katie's been a fan for 8 days.
Yeah, I have been.
Insane.
It's what I feel like as someone who watched all 3, I'm not going to say anything about the content of the third, but it felt like because they released 5 in the first chunk and then only 3 this time, that it didn't like hit as hard, even though I think the episodes were all just as good. It just felt like we got so much in the first 5 that like cutting it to 3, it automatically felt like we were at like a deficit, which we were, but just even from like the content of it, I'm just like, damn, like that doesn't feel like it should be over yet. And then knowing that like we only get one more drop of 2 more, I'm just like, how do we only have 2 more episodes of this left? Like the pacing feels like it's been good, but I almost feel like just release it all at once so we can binge it and just be over it instead of, because like now it just feels like I'm like left wanting more, which I guess is a good thing, but it's like I'm almost unsatisfied. Where last time I was so satisfied, but I'm like, I just don't want to stop, even though this has been an amazing binge.
I think they should have done what they do with The Circle and release like, say, week 1, 3 episodes, week 2,
4,
maybe
4.
Yeah,
they do
like
4.
Well, I was like,
or they do 4 and then 1.
Yeah, because
10.
Yeah, 1 for the finale. Yeah.
And I actually think that would have been fine. Like leave us off at the cliffhanger where we're going into the finale, and then we get 1 last episode. Like that would have been great. But what do we need 2 more for?
Yeah.
I don't know how many people, and please don't tell me, we have at the end of episode 8. So I don't know if they're going to follow like normal mole format, which is like you have a final 3. So
it's not normal that like everybody comes back.
I don't
and re-enters the game. I'm joking.
No, a jailbreak type of thing, like we're playing kids dodgeball.
Yeah, the whole cast is back.
They have to ask everyone's favorite city, not just Dom's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm hoping it's going to be a final 3 and not a final 4. But I guess we'll see how that goes. And are we going to get a full final episode like we do with the moles from the past where like, okay, we'll reveal who the winner is, who the mole is, and then we're going to show you like how the winner got to this point, how the mole did all the moley things and that type of stuff. Like I'm hoping
they would have
do.
To rush
I don't want
through,
it to
like the entire next 2 episodes, I feel like, to be able to do that.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm wondering, like, because we don't know what happens in episode 8. Are we going into next week with 5 people left, with 4 people left? Katie, don't tell me. I'll find out in an hour.
We'll find out in like an hour.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to say anything.
So I am wondering about that too, because as much as I don't want them to rush it, I also don't want to skip out on that final episode where we find out all that information.
Yeah.
So how do they usually do it? Do they reveal like every clue?
They reveal all the clues. They reveal everything that the mole did that like counted as sabotage. Where there were like close quizzes where, you know, if it weren't for time, another person would have been eliminated. Like they'll talk about that. I think they go through like every eliminated player and like get a little bit of like what their thought process was throughout the game. Yeah, they do. It's like an entire like reunion episode, like off Survivor.
I wonder if they will just release like a really long episode, like final episode. Maybe
that would be
like
nice.
a 2-hour finale or something. I don't know if it's been.
I haven't really thought about that. Yeah, that final episode could be like an hour, an hour and a half.
Yeah, Katie, that's so smart. Here I am thinking I'm like in the shackles of CBS's scheduling, and it's the internet, it's Netflix.
Yeah, they could do whatever they want. Yeah.
I mean, look, the season finale of Stranger Things was almost 2 hours long, I think, right? Like they could do that for the mole.
And I think Love is Blind finale of season 2 maybe was long. There are a couple of Love is Blind episodes that I know were like an hour and a half at least. And that's like a
Good.
show that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I am jealous of the people who get to decide, oh, let me watch the show people have been talking about starting like next Friday and just get to watch 10 episodes in a
Yeah.
row.
I'm jealous too. But like good luck
because
dodging the spoilers on Twitter if you do that. People are
yeah,
relentless.
I do have a gripe with a certain castmate that I'm not going to say their name because I want them on here, but kindly fuck you because you kind of spoiled something for me in episode 6. And it's the people, I tweeted this, it's the people who wait up for the premiere and watch it at midnight Pacific time that have no regard for spoilers. Notoriously, during the circle, the same shit happened. Like people who get up at a normal hour and watch it on a normal schedule, they're good about it. But those people who like watch it as soon as it comes out,
it's almost like they do it on purpose.
We don't care.
It feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
They treat it like it's live TV. Like you are not watching this episode of Survivor that is premiering at 8:00 on a Wednesday that we all get to watch at the same time. Just because you're getting to watch it when it comes out, some of us have to be up in 4 hours for work. So for you to sit here and fucking like live tweet your reactions, you're selfish. Oh, I'm worked up about that.
Well, also, like, not everything needs to be a tweet. You can subtly tweet things that maybe are spoilers, but like, you don't need to like. My take on this is that like, if you're just like stating the words of what happened in an episode with no original thought, don't fucking tweet it. Just don't tweet it. You don't need to tweet that. We are all watching the same thing. We don't need like a wow, this person just said this thing. Hashtag
like if you're not
like, bro, that it's not worth.
If you're not
that.
inserting your own opinion to what's
not worth
happening, then yeah, just shut up.
Yeah,
respectfully.
I also feel like because this is the mole, there's like hashtag the mole, there's hashtag like the mole Netflix, like you can mute a hashtag, but like there's multiple hashtags. Like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter being like, well, I use the hashtag, and it's like, yeah, but like you also need to like. Sometimes you don't always think about muting the hashtag right away, and then you have to like read the tweet to even see like what the hashtag is. It's like it's not an effective strategy to just say mute the hashtag or like, well, I used it, that's your bad. It's like, no, I'm sorry, it's your bad. This is no shade to anybody individually, by the way. Like a lot of people have done this, so like it's not one or two people that I'm referring to.
Take it if it applies.
Yeah, if it applies, I'm sorry. You are all nice people, but like you need to examine your tweeting habits. And it's okay. Everybody just needs to get some feedback once in a while.
Yeah. No one's perfect.
No one is perfect.
Except for Joey,
I'm annoying on Twitter too. Listen, I tweeted a lot about Big Brother. You can tell me that was annoying. I understand. It was. I get it.
And part of the issue for me is that I feel like Netflix is just not in on the power of Twitter, especially Twitter, not just social media, but Twitter, because I've said this a bunch of times, so I'm not going to belabor this point, but I think that a different dropping of episode strategy, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, versus, and so you have time to talk about it, versus like this 5-episode drop, forget podcasting about it, just having conversation about it is a lot. Like I've already had it twice in Discord servers that I'm in, like people are spoiler tagging their shit, and then I think it's a spoiler from like the episode they were talking about that they moved on to the next one. I'm like, I didn't want to see this, but not just that, like they aren't, even if they were, I said this on a Circle podcast, even if you were to give some sort of like message at the beginning of it, like, hey, don't tweet about this until this time, like, or use this hashtag.
Yeah.
Like be a part, be like an active participant in getting people to enjoy it, because especially a show like The Mole, it matters. Like knowing
it totally matters.
In episode, so like, I watched the second half of episode 6 knowing that Casey went home. And
Yeah.
because I was like in a Discord server reading the episode 6 things, and I'm like, well, fuck. So to me, it's the same thing. I'm like, let's have a courtesy of like, can we get the hashtag? Can we just maybe make a disclaimer of like, don't ruin this for other people? This show would benefit so much more if it had the discourse going with it, because you're gonna see it on your timeline and be like, the fuck is this about?
Yeah.
Or if you're going to do something like that, like in a Discord server, at least put like episode 6 spoiler, or like include spoilers from episode 6 and 7 or whatever. So like people know what they're clicking on. Because Discord it's hard because it's just like a big blacked out box and you don't know what it is that you're clicking on.
What
but Twitter, it's like almost, I feel like people should be just putting like spoiler in like capital letters or something at the beginning of their thing. So I know like, the first thing I see is spoiler. I'm going to keep scrolling, at least if it shows up on my timeline. Like there's got to be some kind of way that like people can talk about this in a way. Also, like if you're tweeting about it and you're openly spoiling it, aren't you tired of people responding to you and being like, whoa, this is a spoiler?
Yeah. Like, don't you get tired of people saying, hey, like, I haven't seen it yet. Why are you spoiling it for me?
And then people are like mad at you. And then you're just like, well. And I'm like, but this is like, what? I don't know. Also, Alex Wagner kind of spoiled something on her Instagram. I was looking at her Instagram today because, I love her wardrobe. And one of the pictures she posted was with someone who went home in this chunk of episodes. And she posted it like the day after the episodes came out, or like the day that the episodes did come out. And I'm like, this feels really soon to post this picture.
Yeah, that is soon. Like I would wait at least like a couple days at least.
Yeah. You guys already know who it was who went home in episode 6. But like,
okay.
Why are you doing that?
Because we just love Pranav so much.
I mean, I do love Pranav, but like, why? If I saw her Instagram before I watched the show, I would be pissed. Yeah. I would be pissed.
Yeah. That's what happened. It was Pranav that I saw get tweeted about by another cast member. And I was like, it'd be weird if Pranav goes home. And then Pranav went home, and I'm like, motherfucker.
I was shocked that Pranav went home. So like, if that got spoiled for me, I would have been enraged because I was shocked. He was my winner pick. Like, I thought Pranav was going to win.
Same. Literally same.
Yeah, he was. I definitely thought he was going to be final 3.
Yeah. Anyway, just be courteous.
Come on, Netflix, just help us out.
Just be
courteous. Just help us out.
Throw us a bone here, Netflix.
Everybody in general. Let's just be polite.
To me, it's just so weird that like a company that is so good in terms of creating content that people want to watch, or finding content that people want to watch that others have created, right? For them to just be so out of the loop of how one of the major social media platforms works, and to not try and like, I don't have some influence on it. It's probably the best way of putting it. And like, whether it's how you release your shows, because I'm sure there's other shows that it would benefit in the same way. I don't know. Like, I get that their platform is like the binging model, but a show like this needs time for digestion. Totally. It just does. And the conversation about it makes it so much better. And just don't drop 5 at a time. Damn. Like, damn.
I forget who said it, but I think a point that could be considered is that the reason they dropped 5 first was because they were just so unsure of how the show would do.
Yeah, so I think Alex might have said it.
Yeah, I think it was Alex when he was on. But
that makes sense.
I mean, it is something to consider. Like, you were reviving a 20-year-old show. Like, it could go either way. So I guess just for like security purposes, or like making sure that they get something where, people have enough to make a decision on whether or not they want to continue.
Yeah, I can see that. But 5 episodes
is still a lot. It's a lot.
Like, for someone who maybe, like, I was going to watch it anyway just because I heard so much about the mole. But as someone who didn't watch the old mole, and maybe would have been like, maybe I'll check this out, maybe not. Like, to release 5 episodes at once and then like leave me open to everybody spoiling the first 5 episodes, that doesn't really want to make me jump in and watch it. Hi, Nitro.
He's not even in the room. He's like with Brett in the living room. So he got locked out. I gave him one chance to come in and he didn't want to. So no, yeah, I agree with you, Katie. And
2 episodes. Give us 2 to start. That's fine.
Yeah, I think 2. Even if they kept the editing the same, like we leave episode 1 with a cliffhanger of the elimination. We find Osei eliminated in the first episode, and I forget where the cliffhanger is in episode 2. I think it's during the jailbreak mission. Like that's a great place to put the cliffhanger.
That gets people hooked. Like give people who don't know what to expect like that type of a cliffhanger. They'll come back for the next one. And then Carrie, like you said, maybe like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday release schedule or something. I find the same exact issue with The Circle as well. Anything that has like a competition element to it where people are getting eliminated, it does not behoove Netflix to release multiple episodes, like 4 chunks at a time, because you're totally right. When I wake up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and the first thing I do in my routine is check Twitter to see what's going on in the world, and I see, oh, this person was eliminated from The Circle, I'm fucking pissed off. Like that shit pisses me off. Whether you use a hashtag or not, that shit pisses me off.
I agree. And people are like, oh, mute it. Like, I want to mute you permanently.
Yeah, like I'm just going to mute you instead, actually. Not your hashtag, just you.
I am personally a big fan of muting people on Twitter.
Same, it's great.
Oh, I'm an asshole. I just block people. I don't care. Like, if I don't want to ever see your content, your tweets, your anything ever again, I don't even care if you haven't done me wrong. I will just block you. Because the worst is when like you don't even interact with this person, but still like, oh, because someone you do interact with like likes their tweet and then it shows up. Like I unfollowed this person. Why are they still here? So I just
that doesn't happen if you mute. It does say like if someone that you muted like responded to a tweet, it'll say like this is content from an account that you muted. So you get like the opportunity to dig into it. But I also don't use Twitter that way. I always look at latest tweets instead of like my homepage because I don't give a fuck what you, Kari, or you, JD. No offense, I love you both.
No.
Like that's your business. It's not my business. That's up to you.
Like what you're liking, what content is relevant to you, but not me. Like that's your business.
That's your business.
Like, I have no interest in anything like that personally.
I don't need to snoop by you guys.
Twitter as like a blank void for me to just scream into.
Do you? I don't need to know.
Oh my god, it's such a good way to spy on people.
Like I don't need to be spying on my friends.
Yeah, I'm not gonna use
sometimes
Twitter
you do.
to spy.
Well, sometimes you do, but then maybe like you shouldn't be friends with those people. Which all comes out anyway,
Listen,
Like if you're liking Trump tweets out here, like I'll find out eventually. I don't need to like look at my homepage.
Oh, I definitely go to people's profiles and click like the like tab to see what they've liked. When just for different reasons. No, I definitely utilize that because
I don't think I've ever done that to a person I actually
I think that's where your true colors come out.
But like tweets,
totally.
Yeah,
oh,
definitely.
I have too many times.
Carrie's like, trust me, I've looked at yours.
She looked at both of ours before the show.
Honestly, I haven't. No one.
She's like, I did like an hour ago before the podcast started.
I was napping. I swear. But now I know what I'm gonna do after. No, I mean, there's a reason why Instagram took that whole like part off of there where you can't see.
Well, Instagram
that
like
gets
broke
people
up
in
trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Twitter. I mean, the amount of like porn that's just openly on Twitter is kind of wild. So, like, I guess, yeah, like it's really out there. Which is another reason why I don't use my homepage.
And like 50 different porn tweets were just the first thing I was seeing in the morning.
It's wild.
Anyway, back to the bowl.
Anyway, so we've talked about the episode. We're done. we really derailed. Our live viewership has like decreased by about 70%, and it's okay. It's fine. We have to wrap this up because JD and I have to go and watch episode 8 before we podcast about it tonight at 8 with Nate. We did all of the rhyming on purpose.
Tonight at 8 with Nate.
To be fair, when I was picking like who did what episode for this weekend, I did ask I wanted Nate for 8 just because I knew I would remember it. And it conveniently lined up with Saturday night at 8. So
Perfect.
That part wasn't as exactly planned. But okay, let's wrap this up. JD.
Yep.
Any good tweets lately?
No.
Good tweet? I'll check.
Do not expect any quality content from my Twitter account. If you like shit posting, that is a lot of what I do. That is my wheelhouse. That is Dead Crush, DEADCRSH. No vowel in Crush. Yeah, on Twitter. I'm not active anywhere else, so don't bother. I mean, follow me on BeReal if you want. Same username.
It went off during our podcast.
Did it actually? I have my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
Should we all three
I
have
have
ourselves together?
I'm literally putting it up right now.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Mid podcast BeReal. I'm into it.
It's not Kari and I's first time.
I've done it before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done it before and I'll do it again.
There we go. What is this podcast? I feel like a good
It's my chaotic energy. I'm bringing joy energy to the podcast. I apologize.
I feel like a good.
This is every podcast Katie and I do.
Mm-hmm. It's my fault. It's my fault.
Completely unrelated. No, I love it.
Oh, me. Sorry.
Katie, I can't...
Sorry. I didn't see my name was up on the screen. Hi. If you would like to follow me, I promise I'm not that chaotic all the time. Sometimes. I'm on Twitter at RealSomeKatie. I'm also on Twitch at twitch.tv/RealSomeKatie with an underscore. And I'm on Time Podcast talking about Andor, the Star Wars series on Disney Plus with Naomi, who was on yesterday's podcast with you guys. I'm also talking about all things House of the Dragon, typically with Chanel and Javier, but both Chanel and Javier were not able to record this week. So Naomi was on with me again, and as was Matt, who is my real life boyfriend, but also occasional guest on the High Ground. So we kind of had like a High Ground crossover House of the Dragon episode, which was fun. So check that out. And then you can listen to Kari and I talk about Real Housewives, and then eventually the challenge whenever we get that scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
And bounce checks if you want to hear all of our Big Brother coverage from this past season.
Great work on the postseason interviews.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a great time with those.
KGD26 on BeReal, as well as all other platforms. So you can find me there. Katie, remind me to tell you about my endeavor that's going to happen next week. Anybody who listened to yesterday's episode found out about it, but I'm just excited to see your reaction to it, honestly. So
okay, can't wait.
Yeah, definitely follow me on TikTok because next Monday, not this Monday, this upcoming one, but the Monday after, it goes down. So follow me on the social media. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go listen to episode 6. We talk about there. Otherwise, for podcasts, I do this, talk about the mole for like another week because then the season's over. But no, I do think we're going to be able to snag some postseason interviews with some people, which is great. And then Katie and I are going to be talking about the challenge, and I watched it this morning. I'm much happier with it than I anticipated being. And Real Housewives with Katie as well. So that'll be coming up. I have so much Real Housewives I need to catch up on. I haven't watched anything new in a little while. So I got a lot of that in my near future. Oh, good. That's exciting.
Worth talking about anyway. Worth talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
Which it's been, that's a change.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay. Well, JD and I are going to be back soon. In a couple of hours with Nate to talk about episode 8. Mostly because I have a homework assignment due tomorrow, then we couldn't podcast tomorrow. Also because the Cowboys play the Eagles tomorrow night. So I really just need to be mentally prepared for any and everything that's going to happen, including misery. So you got an extra episode of us today. Yeehaw. Until then, we'll catch you at 8 o'clock. And thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.